All right, guys, so let's talk about retiring rich and early. And this is something I believe that there's more misnomers, more just unknowns out there. Everybody wants it, everybody talks about it a whole heck of a lot. However, there's not really anything solid out there as to what that actually is. What does that actually mean? How do you actually get there? And I realize why it's hard to do all sort of things and why everybody's so confused, because if you don't really know where you're going, well, it's impossible to know how to get there because you don't have a defined place in the first place to go to. So I think that's the exact situation we're in whenever you hear these sorts of things in regards to getting rich and retiring early. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Make sure you like the video if you like getting the truth without the hype and if you like information like this, because that's exactly what we're going to do here on this channel. I want you guys all to retire early or be able to have financial freedom and be able to do all the things you want to do in life. And of course, liking this video definitely helps this information get out to more people. So let's jump into the topic here, because I believe it's very, very specific. And I believe a lot of folks throw around all kinds of random numbers because nobody actually does the actual math. Even whenever you watch videos on how to get rich or how to do this or how to do that, they give you some numbers, but then folks don't go and actually do their own numbers. They just take whatever the heck is in the article, whatever's on the YouTube video, whatever the case is. And that gets really, really dangerous. I know whenever I'm doing my group sessions, whenever we're doing, in the blacklist there, we do group sessions, whenever I do it out in person with my stock investing group, or even just out in my personal life, I ask all the time. And a lot of folks say, well, I think I need this, or the experts say you need this amount in order to retire. So I'm striving for that. But nobody sits down and does the actual math for their individual situation, because it is so different for each individual person. And more importantly, they're not really understanding how to actually do the math right in the first place. And secondarily, and probably the thing I see the most, is as I kind of dig a little deeper and as we start talking more, the only thing that we all consistently think about is spending. And occasionally I run across somebody who talks about saving and investing. Now, again, a lot of folks talk about, oh, I want to invest and make $1 million, but they don't actually get into hard dollars. And what are they doing in order to be able to invest? So it kind of tells me that we all know what we want to buy or how we want to spend our money, but we have like literally, people can tell me exactly what they want to buy, exactly how much it costs, exactly when they plan on buying it, all the stats about whatever the heck they're going to buy, especially when it gets down to cars for guys and a lot of other things of that nature. They can tell you all the specs, everything else it can do and all that good stuff, but then they can't define, or they have no clue how to actually get rich. They have no defined answer for that question and what it actually takes in order for them to have financial freedom and to be able to retire early or retire at all. And this is why so many folks, I believe, hit retirement age and cannot retire because they never defined it in the first place. And then as life goes faster and faster, right? I mean, you guys all know that. I'm in my late 40s. Trust me, it goes a heck of a lot faster than it did when I was in my teens and early 20s. I mean, I couldn't wait for the next decade to go by because I was going to do this, that, and the other. And now it's like, oh, slow down, I need the decades to go slower. And what happens is, because you never defined it, and as the life goes faster and faster and faster, bang, you're at that retirement age. And you have to keep working. And now you're actually hoping, or you're getting close to that retirement age and you're realizing, oh crap, I'm not going to make it. I may make it, I may not. And what you end up doing is you end up hoping you're going to make it. And that's why everyone buys stocks at the tops. And all of a sudden, this shiny object, this can't miss investment over here, that's at its very top, you buy into because it's your answer to the question, because you realize you're behind. And then the same exact thing, everybody runs at the bottom when you should be buying that bottom instead, because you're already behind. You've already lost a lot of money. Oh man, I don't want to buy that. That was all fool's gold. I need to just buckle down and save and work harder. And that's not going to work. Investing's rigged. All those other things that you hear. And the only reason why you're in that situation where you're doing everything backwards, you're buying the highs and selling the lows, is because you didn't define things in the first place. And secondarily, I don't think we really understand what it means to actually be rich. So let's do that first. What does it mean to be rich? So what I want to do is I want to change the way we actually view that question. Get the idea of what rich is out of your head. What we've been taught our whole lives, what we were told on the Richie Rich commercial or TV show. I meant to say cartoon if I could get it out here. Anyways, that, or Scrooge McDuck, or, whatever rich person on TV, or whatever social media influencer, for those folks out there that are younger that follow those sorts of things. We need to define, what does it mean to actually be rich? And for me, that is when my assets cover all of my expenses. Because once that happens, I no longer need to work and I am rich at that stage. Rich to me is having that freedom to do whatever the heck I want. And all I need is enough assets to cover my expenses. And at that stage, I'm done. And that number could be anything. For some folks out there, that number is legitimately 50 or $100 million or even more. And for a lot of other folks, that number is as low as, $200,000 in regards to a stock account, or maybe it's just a rental property or two. And at that stage, their assets can cover their expenses. Because in the end, to me, getting rich, quote unquote, is just as much about your assets. Matter of fact, it's less about your assets and more about your expense column, because your expense column dictates what that asset column needs to be. So the lower your expense column is, the more you can bring that column down, the less assets I need over here. And so that means, less money I need, less, rental property, stocks, whatever the case is, whatever you're going to use to retire on, the less of those I need, which of course means I can hit that faster because remember, I got my expenses lower. So that means I can invest more. I can hit that number faster, which of course means the earlier I have financial freedom and I can retire. That's kind of the equation. And that's the question that we need to use in order to define what is really being rich. We have blacklist experts in our blacklist there with expense columns under $1,000 per month. So they only need about $200,000 or one good rental property in order to be retired, in order to have financial freedom. Now, I understand it's an extreme example. That's obviously not normal, but to say it's not feasible is not true, because we have an expert in our group that's doing it. And more importantly, it just shows you the power and how if you redefine what you think rich is, and I know I've spoken to this individual personally, they live a very rich life in their mind. They believe they're living a great life because they're free from all the grind and everything else. They feel they are already rich. So if we absolutely kind of redefine what we believe, what quote unquote rich is in the end, that right there is the first step to actually becoming rich and being able to retire early and being able to have that freedom, that financial freedom to do what you want. So how do I make my assets cover my expenses? All right, there's actually a lot of different ways, but I'm going to cover the three big main ones that I use personally. Obviously, we can extrapolate this out as far as you want, but I'm going to narrow it down to the big three that I use in order to actually make my assets cover my expenses. So first up is a side hustle. I hear you guys are already saying, hey, Luke, I already got a job. Why the heck do I need a side hustle too? If I can just cut down my expenses, my job can cover everything else. And I'm not going to disagree with that, but I'm thinking one step ahead here in regards to this. I'm thinking most likely, now it's not everyone, some folks love their job, but most likely a lot of us, if we could do something else, we would do something else, especially if the pay was equal or close to equal or something of that nature. So for me, I'm not going to wait until I'm retired in order to start that side hustle. I'm going to go ahead and start it right now, first off. Second off, I'm going to do something that I absolutely love with that. So it no longer feels like work. It's just something that I do. Tie it into a hobby, tie it into something that you have a passion for in general. And trust me, especially with the internet nowadays, it was different. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, this was much harder to do, if not impossible to do. Now you can absolutely do this on the weekend, at nights, whatever the case is, on any topic you want to do it on. So that right there is the first way that I fund my expenses, is through that side hustle, because while I'm working my regular job and cutting my expenses and everything else, so that way I can invest more, right? So that way I have extra assets going on. I also have this side hustle going without the pressure of it needing to pay those bills in early retirement or financial freedom, whatever the case is. I can afford to, we're right here on YouTube, start a YouTube channel and have it not make any money the first year while I build out my audience, while I figure out how to do this thing, figure out how to edit videos, how to make my videos better, grow my channel out, all those sort of things like that. I can do that without the pressure of needing to pay the bills and fund my assets over here for that, retirement. And then when it does start making money, if I want to keep working my job, because that's part of my plan, great, I can. And I have that side hustle there feeding more money into my investments at this stage. So that way it kind of accelerates the process. And then whenever I walk away from my job and I quote unquote retire, I have financial freedom to where I can do what I want. Who knows what that side hustle is doing? Maybe it's just one of the, three different ways that fund my expenses over here on this side. So my expenses, part of them are being funded by this. Maybe it turns into something to where it's not only able to replace your prior job, but it's able to do more than what your prior job did. This is not unusual. This is something that absolutely happens all the time. But your worst case scenario is it throws an extra $1,000, $1,500, whatever it is a month towards those expenses, but it doesn't feel like work because you're doing something you love. You set it up in the first place to do something where it's not too taxing, not too much on you, but it's also providing you revenue as well, or, money to cover your expenses. Next up, you have stocks. Of course, this one's pretty easy, right? I mean, the market returns anywhere between 8, 10, 12%, depending upon who you want to listen to and when you want to dart your charts and graphs and all that good stuff at, which means you can do the math and figure out exactly how much of a stock portfolio you need in order to do the 4% rule per se, or essentially to where you're pulling out 4%. So let's say your stocks are just making 8%, you're going to withdraw 4% of that and use that money in order to cover your expenses. And remember, it's also growing during that time as well. So you're only taking out 4%. So over time, it will actually get larger. And I know a lot of folks like talk about, what about inflation? What about this? What about that? Well, heck, you're only pulling out 4%. If it's earning 8%, 10%, this year it's up 27%. I understand that's abnormal, but the point being, you're well outpacing inflation at that particular point in time. Typically inflation is in that 2.5% range or so. So if you're doing the 4% withdrawal rule, you're earning 8%. And remember, that's kind of the bottom of the chart. Some years you're going to earn 10, 12 on average, depending upon the timeline you want to take. Okay, great. You still got an additional 4%. So as long as inflation stays down below 4%, you're not only beating inflation, you're ahead of inflation, which of course helps you if we get another crazy inflationary period in the future. You've been stacking above and beyond what the inflation rate is for years. So that way you're covered on that end in regards to inflation and in regards to it hurting yourself. You have more and more cushion with that. So that's the second piece there, is stocks. And then the third one is real estate. Guys, this one right here is not all that hard, and you don't need 150 properties. You don't need to buy a giant apartment building like some of those gurus out there tell you to do, or anything else like that. You can. That's awesome. I'm not saying it's wrong, but you can absolutely do it with just a couple of properties. Especially, remember, it's about that expense column, right? The lower you get that expense column, the less amount of properties you need in order to fund that. And of course, there's a lot of other advanced strategies as well you can get into. And anyone can do this in the end. You can just search it right up here on YouTube. You don't need me for how to do rental properties. You can absolutely, there's tons of great books. Bigger Pockets is a great resource. I'm not sponsored. They don't even know who the heck I am. There's all kinds of great resources out there for you to learn how to do real estate. I live for free in a great, incredible community in a house on the beach because I use real estate and real estate principles and real estate investing in order to kind of house hack and fund my lifestyle here. Again, everything we've talked about today, you can just search it right up here on YouTube. But if you're looking for it all laid out step by step, and you want me and my team of experts helping you every single step along the way, the Blacklist gives you the exact blueprint for everything we talked about today and more. It is a complete, comprehensive program, complete with real life examples that will get you from zero to financially free in as little as 1 to 3 years. And it does not take a lot of money in order for you to get there, like we talked about today. And founder spots are filling up fast, so make sure you get yours right now, where you get free lifetime access to everything and the lowest price that it will ever be at. That's what you get as a founder. So absolutely check out the pinned comment down there if you feel like that's something for you. Otherwise, keep working on getting rich and retiring early by lowering those expenses. So then you need less assets over here to actually cover your expenses. Because that to me is being rich in the end, is having the freedom to work when I want to and not have to worry about money. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.